Are we ready, guys?
Yep.
On the tech side?
This conference will now be recorded.
We're ready. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to our regularly planned commission meeting for Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. We'll start off with item 3.1, which is the Pledge of Allegiance that Nick Liebhardt was willing to lead us in. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Nick. We do have a full planning commission today. Are there any conflicts of interest with any of the items on the agenda?
No.
Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4.1, but I'm actually going to first read we do have two items on for public hearings, and so I will read the public comment policy and procedure. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present it to the city recorder. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. And then we'll start off with item 4.1, which is a consideration of a request to approve a special exception regarding setback. And city staff.
Okay. This is a pretty simple request. We've seen a lot of special exceptions before, and this is for a smaller structure. Let's see, it's on. There we go. So this is the general vicinity of where this is taking place, and then this is a highlight of the property where this exception is being requested on. And just to the west of this home is where the applicant is requesting to place their accessory structure. So just in terms of background information, it's in the Marabella subdivision. It's on about 1/3 of an acre. The building proposal is a fairly small structure, 288 square feet and about 12.5 feet tall. Notices were mailed last week or a couple weeks ago for this. So in our ordinance, we do allow exceptions, special exceptions for lot adjacency when your property abuts two open spaces. And that's where this one qualifies. It does have a kind of a unique lot shape as well. This is a proposal. So the shed shown here is being requested to be placed 3 feet away from the property line. It is in the side yard, so technically that would need to match the same setback as the home, which would be, I believe, a minimum of 8 feet. Let's see. So this is, just some background information on the size that it can accommodate, and the height and all that. So this is the building's going to be proposed to be finished with stucco. So this is kind of the crux of the discussion here. So the red box shows where the applicant is proposing to place their structure, and then there's two blue boxes that the applicant could place their structure, which would not require an exception to our ordinance. In terms of impact, you can see in the rear yard it could be placed 3 feet away from the property line. So what's the difference in impact from the rear yard to placing it in the side yard 3 feet away from the property line? And there really isn't much, other than the fact that it could be placed on the property, without much impact to the or any impact to the applicant that wouldn't meet our ordinance. So that being said, our recommendation is for denial, where the building can be placed on the property in an area that complies with the city ordinance. We do recommend following that ordinance in this regard. Are there any questions for me on this?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there was nothing. We wouldn't have received anything from any of the neighbors or anything on this.
So the neighbor to the
The west, I believe?
They have provided a statement saying that they're okay with the location as the applicant has proposed it. And to be, in all transparency, this is a fairly minimal ask, in terms of our recommendation. If the commission did decide that it was, where the applicant is proposing it was okay, then I think as staff, we would be fine with that as well.
Thank you.
If the applicant wants to come up, if they have anything in addition they'd like to add.
Yes, thank you for your time and your consideration, and thank you for your preparation of that. If you could go back to the satellite image, or do I control that?
Yeah. Just back arrow
There we go. I'd like to highlight a couple of things. So what I would actually do if I don't get the exception, rather than orient it the lower left where you see, my second place option would be to orient that, rotate it clockwise about 45 degrees, so the long edge would be parallel to that south fence. And so what that would do actually is that public path that's there is 12 feet wide at that point. And so if I were to build it there and be in code, be in compliance, it would set it, it would allow for the neighbor on the other side of the path to, if they built a structure within 3 feet of their property line, then it would set it 16 feet between each other. If I got the exception and built it there 3 feet from the west side there as proposed, because the path is wider on the west side, it's 20 feet, even if my neighbor to the west gets an exception, which, I can't quote them, but they don't intend to. They have an acre back there that you don't see, that they don't have any intent to build something there. Even if they got an exception, because the width of the path there would actually set it minimum 26. And so as far as impact, when you're looking at adjacency to any potential structures down the road, it sets it further away from other people's structures, and also just the aesthetics. I know that's part of it too. With a narrower path there, you imagine it would actually be the higher, well, it wouldn't be the higher point, but it would just be closer to, the fences there, it just feels a little bit more enclosed on the south side. And I'd also just like to point out the way that the code is written is, as far as the proof of hardship, that's only applicable to an odd-shaped lot, and so we're looking at adjacency to 2 open space portions. So although there are other options, I really don't need to show, the way I understand it, I don't need to show that it's difficult, there's hardship for me to stay in compliance. So I really believe it's best for me and actually best for the surrounding area there for the exception.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions for the applicant?
So the main reason you want it there, there's got to be a reason you want it there.
Yeah, it's closer to the concrete there. We're going to put some yard tools there, some bikes, and I'm going to do some hobby stuff there. So it's closer to the house exit and the concrete that's there. Just a little bit easier access. We plan a garden, where the second place option is, and that's the better option for the garden too. So just better use of our land in general. Good question.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can have a seat.
So from my optic, you can't get any more. Our intention of setbacks is to keep you distance away from the adjacent property line, and it's a giant trail with just gravel and asphalt. So to me, I'm okay with where the applicant's proposing. I don't see why we wouldn't allow a 3-foot setback. Really, they're 20, whatever. I think that trail's 20 feet wide. So to me, they're farther setback than if the neighbors were building sheds right next to each other. So, and I have always considered that once you're behind the logical front of the house, I don't think we care. We've talked about that a bunch, so that's my opinion, and I think 3 feet makes total sense.
Yeah, my opinions as well. I don't have a concern with this.
And I think city staff made some good points as well. They put on there that some special exceptions are a lot adjacent to other commercial, industrial, open land uses on at least 2 sides of the property, which they are. That would be an exception, which I think could be applicable in this instance. And then from the irregular lot shape, it's quite possible that it would fit in that criteria as well. So there are 2 exceptions that it definitely could, which I think if you do go that route, you do want to bring those up in the motion to say why, if that is what you guys decide. Anything else from Planning Commission?
I'm ready to make a motion if no one has
All
anything.
right. then we'll look for a motion. If you want to, there's exceptions.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.1 with the reasoning behind the fact that it's an irregular lot and it's adjacent to at least two sides of the property are next to open space to allow a 3-foot setback on the side.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Adam, a second by Andy, and we'll call for a vote. Forrest?
No.
Andy?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Andrea?
No.
All right, that does pass with a vote 4-2. We'll move on to item 4.2, which is a consideration for preliminary plot approval of a 5-lot residential subdivision. This is on for a public hearing, and we'll look at Sheldon to start us off.
It's me. There we go. Okay, so this is for a 5-lot residential subdivision. It's located off 129th South and about off of Rosecrest Way. There's a closer vicinity of the area. This property is 2.5 acres, zoned A121, which has a minimum lot size of a half acre. This development here is actually placed, is located, adjacent to the J&J development. So we'll kind of come into discussion here in a second. So as I mentioned, they're proposing 5 lots, 5 half-acre lots as proposed. They meet city standards as far as width and size go. The overall review, engineering, really had no concerns. Zoning, our only issue was whether, some corrections on the plat and providing a 6-foot vinyl fence here along the south property line, as this is a development zone for agriculture, and the adjacent properties are zoned R110, so they're residential. Kind of going back to, the engineering and stuff of this property and the J&J factor is that J&J, they'll be installing the roads and detention, so there's really not a lot of, going on here as far as the responsibility for infrastructure for the developer.
Is there a precast wall on the other side between the church and it?
Yeah, there is an
church
existing
put it in.
precast wall there between.
And
the
then
church.
is there a wall along 129?
There is not.
No fence
So
or wall?
It's a local road, so we don't require that.
Okay.
Like I said, it's pretty straightforward, simple subdivision. With that being said, staff does recommend approval. The applicant is online if you have any questions for them. And again, if you have questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
All right. Any questions for staff? Thank you, Sheldon. If the applicant is online, is there anything you would like to add?
I think that there's, it's pretty straightforward. There's the one thing that we had talked about with the city staff is that on that south side where the 6-foot vinyl fence is required, it actually it connects with a residential lot from the J&J subdivision. So in the front yard, we talked about they talked about being okay with a 3-foot fence and then goes up to 6 foot in the backyard. I just wanted to be clear on that vinyl fence. We can do it either way, but they just thought for aesthetics so that there wasn't a 6-foot fence in somebody's front yard next to their neighbor doing a 3-foot fence in their front yard on the south side on that lot.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, not at all. We are working with J&J on the development of the street and the street lights. So all of that will be primarily done by J&J. And we will assist them in that a little bit, but it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any questions for the applicant? All right. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to the public hearing portion of this, and we will open the public hearing at this time. It's not a question answer. It's more if there's comments you want to make, you can come up and you can make comments at this time. And if you have any concerns or anything, you can express those.
Yeah, I do. Is those lots already been approved to be 5 lots instead of 4?
So this part of it is the preliminary plot approval of the 5 lots.
Okay, because we, you know, I live right there, and we're all bigger homes, acres, acre and a halves, and we're cramming all this little stuff in here, and I thought Herriman City was gonna try to quit doing that. And that's gonna kill all our value, jamming all these little homes in that little spot right there. And I just totally tired of it, you know? I don't see what you guys keep doing this for. And I know it doesn't impact anybody up here, but it impacts all of us that live there. I mean, go back and look at the map there. Look at all the big lots there. All big lots, all big homes. And now we're cramming all these little homes in there, you know, and it's supposed to be when it was 2 acres, and then it went down to half acres, and now it's going to whatever they are now. So we were gonna go 4 lots, now we're going 5 lots. So I'm just asking you guys to think this over for the people that live there.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Randy Robertson.
Thank you so much, Randy.
I live directly across.
Do you want to state your name and then just speak into the
Mom.
mic? Thank you.
And I have a question about how that is set up. I live right across the street. And so instead of now 2, 3 houses, I'll have 5 houses. How do you enter that property and exit from it? Because it'll affect my property. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. So I live on the north side of it. And so where do people drive in and out of these properties?
They'll be accessing on 129 south.
Because how's that? How do you?
And if you want to make comments and things like that, we'll let the actual applicant talk after this, and then also staff and everything.
'Cause
So
I'm directly across from it, so I just want to know, as far as, instead of having 1 or 2 houses there, the traffic is now 5 times as much.
okay, so stating the concern with the traffic and how the house and setup
And then
is.
what it's
Okay.
going to do to property value.
Okay.
If I have an acre or an acre and a half, and then everything else now is half acre, I'm assuming is what this is being proposed as.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for your comments. If there are no other comments, we'll close the public hearing at this time, and then we'll go back to the applicant if they have anything in addition they would like to share.
Okay, I just would like to comment on both of the homeowners' comments. I just wanted to reassure the first gentleman that spoke that the lots are half acre and they are actually zoned agriculture. So we tried to kind of match what the adjacent properties were already kind of using. So, you know, they will be bigger properties with the potential to have agriculture there. And as far as the access, you can see that there's a road. It's probably right across from your house, the other woman that spoke. There's an access road, J&J Farms Lane. And I believe that road has already been approved as far as in connection with the J&J properties that has already been approved. So that road's kind of going in regardless. And so what will face your house is just kind of the side of that first lot, if that makes sense. The homes will face the other direction, the opposite direction of your house.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the Planning Commission?
No.
All right. we'll let you go for now then, and then we'll turn to the Planning Commission for additional discussion.
So in my mind, this is pretty simple. The road's already planned. We knew this would eventually subdivide. And basically, you're just dividing 5 by 2.5, and that's where you got half-acre lots, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
there's not even road needed to be dedicated because it's all
It
tied to the
complies
other
with the zone here.
So to me, because it complies with the zone, I'm ready to make a motion. So
Any other discussion first? Seeing none, then we'll look for a motion to be made.
I move to approve item 4.2 with staff's recommendations.
Do we need to clarify the fence? The staff's recommendations was a 6-foot fence, and the applicant mentioned that the side yard would be, or is that right?
Yeah,
Can we look
Sorry.
at the recommendations so I can make sure I see how they're written? Maybe I'm not seeing that
It's
right
right
here.
here. Item 2,
And lot 5 is the bottom?
circle.
Yes,
The yellow circle.
circle's that fence location there.
I'm okay with the way it stands until we figure out what's really going there, so.
Okay.
I don't see an issue. We can always resolve it later.
I guess,
Well, if
I'm
they
good
put
with
the
staff.
6-foot in, and then they wanted a 3-foot in between the neighbor's yard is, I guess, the concern.
it kind
because
of comes down to,
it's the front.
kind of comes down to a conflict in the code.
Yeah,
where it
because the
requires-
conflict would be the clear view, right?
Right,
If the
so-
driveway's there and then you can't see out.
And
So let's adjust it then to say with staff's 5 recommendations with the 6-foot solid vinyl fence to extend from the
You could even say
eastern
stay in
property line
compliance.
to the front of the structure
Yeah.
of the home.
Yeah, you could even say stay in compliance with the code.
within the 25-foot setback is 3 feet.
There you go.
Yep. Okay. Wendy, did you get that adjustment? Okay, all right,
It's within 25 feet of the front of the lot.
all right.
And I think it was our intent that we would make that adjustment. Like Sheldon had mentioned, there is kind of a conflicting provision in the code, and it kind of depends on which project gets developed first. So under the code, we're confident we can make that
The
adjustment
road has to be
administratively.
done
Yeah.
first before this is approved, which is a
Yeah,
key to this.
we just want to make sure it's not written that we're requiring a 6-foot fence,
Right,
and then it's
right.
not in compliance.
Yeah, and we don't want that either, if the
No.
conditions do lend itself to that, yeah.
You good with my motion?
Second.
All right, motion and second by Forrest. So Adam, we'll call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Forrest?
Yes.
Thank you, guys. We'll move on to item 4.3, which is a consideration for preliminary plot approval of a 1-lot residential subdivision. And Sheldon?
All right, this is for a single-lot residential subdivision. It's located kind of in the corner there by Herriman Cove. It's right on the bounds of the city limits. It's kind of in a unique place. Here's the site plan here. It's a 5-acre parcel. It's zoned FR1, which is just a recreational zone here in Herriman. At this time, they're only looking to do a 1-lot subdivision. What they're proposing, like I said, is just a 1-lot subdivision. Per the FR1 code, ordinance, they're allowed to do 1-acre lots. Again, they're only doing a single lot development here. In the future, they may expand they may come back and re-subdivide this to accommodate more housing. Again, looking at considerations of approval, lot width and area and density all meet ordinance. Engineering did have some concerns on this property. We'll kind of look over those now. So the way this property is located, it only has access off of Majestic Oaks Lane, which is a public right-of-way owned by Salt Lake County. So we've worked with the applicants worked with the county. We have some responses back and forth from the county saying that, they do allow access off this road for this property. Another issue we have on this property, a concern, is the access easement. And this access easement is to provide access to the lot to the south. They're landlocked, and they only have access to their lot through this access easement. Part of this approval and what's been proposed, this easement does remain. Providing services and utilities to this property was quite difficult for the applicant. It's due to the zone pressures and accessibility to get sewer and water to the property. They have worked with the neighboring property in Phase 8, Lot 807. They've acquired an easement, I believe it's a 25-foot easement that goes to their side of their lot line to provide access or an easement for sewer and water to that property. There's a peg at the top of Majestic Oaks Lane where they can get power. Again, like I said, it's a one-lot subdivision. It does meet ordinance. So with that being said, staff does recommend approval for this subdivision. If you have any questions for me.
I have a question.
Yep.
So in nowhere else do we allow people to not develop a roadway to access the future lot. So my question is, the green road, why aren't we requiring that to be a road?
Because this is just a one-lot subdivision. So
I get that, but is that the only reason?
We're allowing
Are they
them-
gonna have to pay a fee in lieu of for the road or something like that?
So if they come back to develop more, I guess, more homes, we would require them to put in a road. But the way this is proposed is just a driveway access off of that dead-end road at Majestic.
So the reason I ask that is if we were in Old Herriman right now and you subdivided, you'd have to dedicate your land and you'd have to pay a fee in lieu of. And so
Right. Well,
that's my major heartburn with this one. Honestly, that's my only heartburn with it, is even though it's just a one-lot subdivision,
right.
I still think that the city doesn't owe that roadway up. That's the developer's responsibility, and unfortunately, it is just a one lot, and I get it.
Right. And I guess you're referencing like a paved road through the access easement to the southern lot. Is that what you're?
Correct. Because in reality, the way I look at this is this was a quitclaim subdivision, which was two original lots that has magically turned into one. It was originally one lot, now it's magically been turned into two lots, and it's just getting around that. So to me, this is a full lot subdivision, because that's just how I kind of look at it. So that's where I struggle with this concept. Without the fee in lieu of word, and I'd like to get more from engineering on that, why that would be looked at differently than, like I said, if you went to Old Herriman right now, next to those houses we were just talking about, the lady on the opposite side of 129, if she was to subdivide her land, if it hadn't had a building permit, she would have to pay a fee in lieu of for a roadway. So that to me is my concern.
Right. And per ordinance, they're only required to have access off a public right-of-way. So being a one lot, being the Majestic Oaks is that right-of-way. It's owned by the county, so we don't really have any control on, how they're developed that or what the county requires them to do on that development. As far as providing, paved access to the southern lot to, I guess, maintain that access. I can't recall anything in our ordinance requiring that. That may be an engineering standard that, that states they do have to do so.
I've seen it where we've required roadways to extend through the property, so I'm not saying they'd have to build it all the way to, but to me, they should at least go from the red line up to the extent of their property so that the future can carry on the roadway as needed, including an approved fire turnaround.
And then I guess another challenge would be too at that point
I don't
is
know what this is.
the way the property, you can kind of see the overlap of the green.
But it's not on these.
So they don't have a full 50-foot width there. So that parcel to the west, I guess it would be, they would have to work with that adjacent property owner to widen that road. Does that make sense? To get that 50-foot wide.
So in essence, that still would mean that the person, I'm just going off the name that's named Kurt Fisher, the property that's labeled Kurt Fisher would have to eventually work with what you're saying. And so to me, it should be addressed now.
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
So I mean, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but more or less you're saying you're not giving access to Kurt Russell, or Kurt
Fisher,
Russell, Kurt
yep.
Fisher.
Kurt Russell's
I like Kurt Russell better. But pretty much you're saying you're not giving access to the neighboring landowner.
That's the reason why my concern is.
And
100%.
that is something that we try to not ever limit.
Which has already been highlighted by staff, so that
Right,
to me
like,
is
so
pretty-
they're maintaining that access easement.
And is there access from somewhere else for that piece of land?
So to the south of that property, it's just open, yeah, there's really no access. It's just open space gullies.
So
back
this
there.
would be the only access to the landowner.
And to me, we also have city standards on driveway slopes and things like that. So without seeing the green to ensure it meets the criteria, I think we're at premature on making a motion at this time, because we would need to ensure that that road is steep enough, not overly steep,
Right.
to limit the Kurt Russell property, just kidding, Kurt Fisher property, to their development options. That's what I would say. So I think there's a little bit more design here that we need to evaluate, but that's just mine before
And I
we
guess,
got too far into it.
with that being said, let's say Kurt comes in, Fisher, and he would have no ability to build on his land at this time, is that correct?
Yeah, technically, because it is an access.
But we've
easement.
landlocked him.
Well,
They're already landlocked, so.
We'll have public hearing in 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, in 1 second, we'll have public hearing, so you guys have a chance.
So I'm just saying, I think we need a little more understanding on that, because we could basically, even though we're giving him an easement, we could landlock and make him not be able to access. And I know the city has done this on several occasions where they've had to do designs like this to ensure we're not landlocking. So there's a couple of concerns.
Sheldon, I echo everything that Adam and Chris have said, but looking at Mr. Fisher's lot, if you extend that road the way it's shown here, you're severing a piece of his property. In other words, he'll have land on both sides of that road. And I don't know if that's appropriate. Plus, I know the grades out here, and this is incredibly steep. So there's my first point, is we're severing a piece of someone else's property deliberately when we can see it. The second thing, if this ever develops into a public road, you're proposing a pressure line running underneath of this road. With the grades out there, we have no idea where this future road's going to be and if there's enough clearance between a private owner's pressurized sewer line and the full depth of the road that's being proposed.
okay. And I think engineering may have discussed that with the applicant regarding proper depths and looking at the grade.
Proper depths based on what? I don't see a plan and profile.
Gotcha. And maybe Josh can speak to that, but I know that was part of their discussion to ensure that, the utilities were low enough where it wouldn't affect.
I kind of
road
echo
connection, but-
what Daryl is saying, is we may need to make sure that road and those utilities don't conflict. So again, we don't have a road that you have a manhole sitting in the center of their access, right?
Has the engineer looked at this at all, or no?
Engineering highlighted that it's a concern on the access, and so to me, I'm just saying, I think we need to address that before we go further, because the actions made right here may make a decision that makes the Kurt M. Fisher property not, assuming that's who owns it now, not developable.
That road might not be buildable, and that'll negate
Exactly.
this at all.
Or, like Daryl was saying, this is super steep land.
Yeah, to where the connection might be
fill
all-
might
that
actually
might be the
go
end of the road.
outside of the 50-foot just to construct it.
Yep.
So I think there's a variety of issues we have to address here.
Yeah, and I can see that as well, that this is the end of the road because it's too steep to build that road, period. And so that would be good to know.
But I just wanted to give staff some of the big concerns right off the start. So.
I know.
My final comment, and I couldn't totally hear you guys, so maybe you've already addressed this. The proposed driveway, is it, has someone within the fire department taken a look at this? Is it too long? Is the cul-de-sac suitable to turn a vehicle around? Does all that work?
Yeah, UFA did look at that. There are some requirements in the recommendations just stating if it's not a paved road, that they have to be fire sprinkled. So they are providing a turnaround there, you can see on that driveway they're proposing.
So the other concern I have with where Daryl was heading with that driveway is also in that 50-foot easement. So if the driveway is here and the future driveway to the other property is up here and it's all in 50 feet, it might not be, that elevation might be very substantially changed right there. And so I think all of that has to be designed and looked at before we can truly understand and approve a subdivision for that spot.
Okay. Anything else for staff? Okay. If the applicant's here, if they want to come up, state their name and any additional information. Thank you, Sheldon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jose Ramirez, applicant for this one-lot subdivision. So that, I guess, I was a little confused on why you called it a new road. I think I heard that comment. This is an already existing easement that has been granted long before I was born.
The green?
Yes, the green is already an existing easement.
So it is an easement, but it's not a designed roadway, correct?
No, it is not a designed roadway.
And so we need to ensure that even though the easement may be there, that that slope can actually be achieved from the red spot to the parcel beyond your property to Herriman city standards before we could approve it. If it was flat, I don't think it would be as big of an issue, but it's fairly steep, as you know, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that to me is the issue.
And the question is, that we're trying to figure out is that road feasible at all to where it stops? It'll stop at your property because it's not something we can build because of how steep it is, or is it something we can build? And then the question is where do we need to go with that to ensure that it will be put in place for the future landowner above it or the current?
Okay. I guess my comment to that is that it's been this way for a really long time, and that went in when the Cove subdivision was also put in. So this didn't change when the Cove subdivision was put in place.
Okay. Any additional comments or maybe any questions for the applicant from the staff?
I don't have any.
I don't have any additional comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We will open the public hearing at this time, and so if you have any comments, you can come up and state your name.
Thank you. My name is Sue Scallion, and we are the last house at the end of Majestic Oaks Lane. So our south fence line is the boundary between Salt Lake County unincorporated and Herriman. So there is a road that's been proposed a long time right along our fence line called Majestic View Lane. And my understanding is that lane was dedicated to Herriman's a few years ago. So we've lived there. We bought our property in 1995. We know the Mascaros who cut that road, and the road ended right where our house is. It's a gravel road. The county doesn't maintain it. We do, and our neighbor does. The only thing we get there is garbage pickup. It can't handle a lot of traffic. When the cove was being built above us, because the GPS shows Majestic View Lane cut through there, we had all the construction trucks and construction equipment coming up Majestic View Lane and trying to get over into the cove. And they ended up at our place and couldn't turn around. So they had to come through our property, around our barns, and through our house. They pulled up in our driveway. They broke our driveway. It was just torn up with all that heavy traffic and heavy equipment. And also because Majestic View, Majestic View Lane, yeah, Majestic View Lane, not Majestic. We're on Majestic Oaks. So Majestic View Lane is on the GPS, so we get quite a bit of traffic that are following the GPS that tells them they can get to the cove. So, in fact, we had over 100 people during construction of the homes that live above us wanting us to tear our fencing down so that they could cut through our property to get there. So my concern is Majestic Oaks Lane needs to be a dead-end situation until further planning is done. It will not handle, if they want, it's in Salt Lake County. Mr. Ramirez, he is in Herriman, his taxes go to Herriman, and Herriman should provide his access. And we're glad to have him as a neighbor, but that road will not, if they use that road, they're gonna have to develop it. And we all bought 5 acres. I'm still paying I'm paying for part of that road. I'm paying taxes on 5 acres. Some people had to give up a small part of their frontage to Salt Lake County, so they could cut a road through there, but, so each one of us has a 5-acre subdivision, and there's 14 families along there. We're all on septic tanks. We are all on propane. The only thing we have up there is electricity. So we're very concerned. All our horse barns are right along the fence line on Majestic View Lane. So, I mean, I can see a road getting cut through there, but there'd have to be some protection for our animals and barns there.
So the point is, you own to the middle of the road, so the easement stops at your property.
We appreciate your comments. If there's more comments to be made.
They didn't give that to the county, so that's the end of the road. They own in the middle of the road.
And yeah, so.
And then, I live down on the bottom. I'm Brent Wilson. I live by
If you want, when she's done, you can come up and make some comments too. That'll be perfect. That way we can record both of them. That'll probably be easier.
So that was my concern. What happens south of us is, I know Herriman will do the best they can. They provide the utilities that he needs, and they should provide the access. The road is halfway cut through there. I mean, there's right at the end of Majestic View Lane, they dug a great big thing down there for water, drainage, everything else. And our east fence is the drainage that goes towards the paved road on Rose Canyon. So, okay. I mean, we were flooded about 5 years ago. We were flooded when we had a good rainstorm. It came down, went through our place, and washed through our barns, washed our arena out. And since then, the Newmans came through and they dug some berms. So it's rocky and stuff there, and kids play there, but that property, you know, and I don't know how many homes the owner of that ground is planning. Last I heard, he wanted to put 6 homes down there. So he's gonna need a road. So, I just hope you don't try to extend Majestic Oaks, because it won't handle that kind of traffic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And just state your name when you come up again. Thank you.
Brent Wilson. I live down at the bottom of the Majestic Oaks where the guardrails are, and I got the blind driveway coming out. And so that hill right there is too steep to qualify. Our road these days would not qualify as a road. The grade is too steep from my property at the bottom and to the top, and it's all hard pan, and they barely got the culvert, and you got a creek right there, so you can't change that grade. And so to get that road, we don't get, when it snows, the garbage trucks don't go up there. We don't even always get garbage service. If it's the wrong day, you ain't getting a fire truck up there, an ambulance, or nothing up that road on snowy days. And people on snowy days run that hill at 35 miles an hour to make the top because it's icy. The guardrail has been broken and shattered on the east side from somebody hitting it going up the hill. And then people come down that thing at about the same speed or faster. And so as I'm coming out my driveway, if I miss somebody, they're going so fast that they can't stop, even in the summer on the gravel. And so and asphalt ain't gonna fix that. Only thing would be the grade. And to fix the grade, you'd have to, the people at the top, it would be longer, and you'd have to be longer and cut my access totally out. So I've been there 35 years, and unfortunately for you to get your access, it would kill my access. I'd have to come up over the top and come back down, to get back across Rose Creek, because I've only got a minimum from the creek of property line, and then I'm done. That was, kind of that way, because for a long time the road was, I lived there for 7 years with no road. And temporary power run to the cranes for that long we shared, and we all had that type of mentality. So it's kind of heartbreaking too. So I really would like for you guys to take care of him and bring him in on that Herriman side behind Scallions, and please put a gate up there for us. It's like the Wild West there. And the four-wheelers and dirt bikes and just looky-loos coming up and down our road. It's down, there's no gravel from the top of the road left. From everybody, with what was Sue said, our road is totally trashed from that. And then we worry about more. And then once that's cut through, then the other lots up there are gonna wanna use it. And if anybody can go through there, they're gonna take that shortcut, because they wanna take the shortcut and then go up over that hill now.
Yeah, thank you for your comments on that. That's helpful.
It's a dangerous little spot right there in the winter.
Thank you.
It's not a legal place for.
Thank you.
Homesteaders, that's the word I was looking for.
Thank you. At this time, we'll close the public hearing. And if the applicant has any additional comments, if the applicant has any additional comments, he can come up at this time. Sure.
Do we know if the county has master planned Majestic Oaks?
Let's let him make some comments, then we'll ask some questions to see if staff can help us out with some of these questions. So I'm thinking some of the same things.
No further comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll turn to the Planning Commission for additional discussion and questions.
So,
Oh, hold on. If you want to come up, if you're the applicant or tied to the applicant.
My name is Rito Ramirez. I'm Jose's brother.
Okay.
And from what we've heard from Salt Lake Counties, they have no plan. I overheard the question about if they have plans for that road, and they said they do not at this time. So
Okay.
just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll turn to the Planning Commission for additional discussion.
so I think we just need to evaluate it a little bit more. I know that it sounds like who owns the road is a concern, right? Does it meet even county standards on slope and grade? So even if we were going to say we could dump our road, I don't think it's fiscal responsible for us to dump more traffic on a road that is not meeting, and again, I'm not saying Herriman city standard, at least county standards. I still think we need to address access up through, including the utility adjustments to the future further north lot, and then, I said north, I meant south, further south lot. And then I also think we need to evaluate should it come off of Majestic View Lane? Because I remember when we talked about that, and being that I do remember this discussion when we worked on the Cove years and years ago. The reason why this property was cut off of the Cove was because of this issue for land access and the issue off of Majestic Oaks. So I just think we need to evaluate it. I'm prepared more for like a continuation so we can let staff, I know there's a lot of issues here, but I do think we really need to do a little more engineering on a variety of things, as well as evaluating, can we use that right-of-way and have an easement over the top of it that could limit the future access to that other property? So to me, there's a lot of issues right there. But that's my thoughts.
And with that being said, I guess because I didn't think about this as well. So, from the perspective of fire and police, is this road in bad weather? Do they have access to even get up there? From the county perspective to that, and that's something that I think we need to look up and make sure it's doable. Because if it's not, then I agree we can't really add on to that road if we can't help our residents if we need to.
Correct. So I think access is key to this whole thing. Right?
Yeah.
So if I may,
No more comments right now.
if I may, I wish to thank the commission for identifying your specific questions or issues. That's what we ask you to do in our staff report. If it is the decision of the commission to continue this item for a future meeting, we want to know exactly what additional information you're looking for a future consideration. I also wish to express, this is why I love public hearings. I'm a fan and support opportunities to invite the public to come in and comment. I know that is not something that our legislative process, our state legislature is finding ways of trying to simplify our development review process, and oftentimes we're not holding public hearings because we're not, anyway. But this is why I appreciate public comment. Now, having said that, as we have been listening to your concerns, I just want to turn to our engineering department. Are there any of those issues that have been stated tonight, Josh, that you believe we have questions for or answers for now, or do we need to do some additional research?
I think we'd have some additional research to do. I did want to bring up a couple things. Majestic View Lane is in the process of being approved for final engineering.
Okay.
So I think we will see that, I don't know exactly when, but they are working towards getting that finalized to construct that, so.
So if we go the Majestic View Lane option, just please make sure when you come back to us that if that ends up being the way that this drains the traffic out, I want to make sure that we get the full right-of-way of Majestic View Lane all the way across to the red piece, if that makes sense.
That does make sense, and
I don't know how to say that without drawing it.
The
Maybe
east side of that kind of green easement that snakes down, that is being dedicated as well, if that makes sense.
Do you have a mouse or something so you and I can
see if
sync
I
what we're
touch it,
saying?
will
I
something
tried to
happen?
touch mine, but it was not working.
They don't like us. We went a little crazy last time they let us do that.
Yeah, I know. Ever since then.
Oh, drawing tool, let's see.
No, still not.
Only
Like-
Andy
oh.
is the responsible one.
Basically, I'm trying to say, do this, like that.
Okay. Can you see what I just drew? That's
Nope.
drawing here.
Nope.
That's interesting.
It's drawn on line, but not here.
Oh, weird. So is it pretty much the L
So
that goes
basically,
from
if you-
Majestic View to the green?
I think I can describe it. If
Yeah.
you go to
It's the L.
if you go to the right-of-way line, the northern right-of-way line of Majestic View Lane, that needs to extend all the way to the west across that pink area and back down to the green to make a little L. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
That does, and right now, if I don't have plans in front of me for Majestic View, but I think it stops at the midpoint.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, and then I was thinking about something else too. They talked about the cut through traffic there. We don't own Majestic Oaks Lane, but you might work with Salt Lake County on a gate in the future with, since that's a road owned by. Yeah, so anyway, wanted to.
So if it goes out Majestic Oaks Lane, we need to make sure it meets county standards and it's completely dedicated before we can add more, in my opinion. And then Or the other options go out Majestic View Lane, like we just talked, with making sure you have dedication at least that much. Does that make
So,
sense? On those two
we
ideas?
talked to Fire about that, and we did have, he gave them the option of using fire sprinklers in the home to kind of, you know, get around that, I guess, but either asphalt all the way to the house or fire sprinklers in the house. But that was,
Doesn't that mean medical couldn't get up there either then?
oh yeah, you're 100% right.
So then I also think we need to address their utilities and the future access to the Kurt Fisher property. And make sure that actually works out. And we already talked about that.
I wrote that down here to look into, so and work with them on. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Any other discussion before Adam's ready to make his motion? Anything else?
The Kurt Fisher property, is that the last property to the south? Yes.
There's no additional ones past that that would potentially be tied to this?
It will all be dedicated open space up behind that.
Behind
It's
that,
part
so
of the code.
Kurt
yeah.
Fisher's the last one?
Yep.
Okay. Is that another 5 acre? Sorry. Do you know if that's another
Don't
5
sit
acre
down
lot?
yet.
Yes? Okay. That's just our.
I think it's
screen
probably
with
like 15 or 20 acres, actually.
Oh, so it's a little more. Okay.
It's a big piece.
Okay, good to know. Adam?
I make a motion to continue item 4.3 with, until staff can address some of those concerns.
Motion made by Adam,
I'll second.
second by Heather. We'll call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Forrest?
Yes.
Thank you. That will be continued to unknown date. And I think we clearly articulated some of the concerns that hopefully can be addressed if it comes back. And then item 5, any other comments from the Planning Commission? Seeing none, future meetings. Item 6.1, next City Council meeting, November 9th. Next Planning Commission meeting, November 17th. And then there will be a joint City Council Planning Commission meeting Wednesday, November 30th. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
I got you on one. That was me. I had to beat Adam on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.